So, here I am, back again with some discussion vids about One Piece. Now, here's the thing. Chat. Yo, I'm in the wrong mindset right now, chat. Listen, people. Chat, yo! Twitch.tv, link in the box below. Here's the thing. A few weeks ago, this was a debate, a topic when it came to the YouTube One Piece sphere. And I can understand kind of how this started because in Wano Kuni right now, or a few weeks ago, we had the Zoro versus Hawkins, and I was like, oh. And then you had a lot of folks saying Loro or saying Woro. It was Lawkins, it was Walkins, you know, getting L's and W's, that kind of stuff. And then, of course, the debate always cascades from there. So you had Sanji thrown into there. And then eventually, of course, once again, you had Luffy thrown in the mix too. And folks are like, well, is Zoro as strong as Luffy? Can Zoro beat Luffy? Oh my god, here we go again with this debate, with this topic. Number one, it comes from the fact that Zoro has swords and he uses cutting techniques. Therefore, he's able to quote-unquote damage Luffy, but I'll get to that soon. And then two, it comes from how people perceive Zoro as a fighter. This is portrayal. And this is part of the reason why when it comes from a scaling mechanism, portrayal I find to be very insufficient as a whole. Like, I understand it, and I do use it myself, of course, obviously. But to then ground that and say, okay, well, to go as far as to say that Zoro is as strong and can actually beat Luffy, madness. Absolute, unadulterated madness. And as far as I understand, only a few folks believe that Zoro can beat Luffy. To me, when you look at the feats, what I lead by, first and foremost, the feats. When you look at what Zoro showcased post-time skip, it's predominantly just DC stuff. And when I say DC, I mean what he can destroy. So we saw like his biggest feat so far has been the Pika stuff. He cut Pika's massive stone statue in half. Honestly, even before then, he did, I think it was a 1,080-pound cannon. And he cut like the entire body with a giant wave attack in like the middle part of Dressrosa. And then at the end of Dressrosa, that's when he actually cuts Pika in half. And then from there, we see him cut him into quarters to find where Pika is, and then finally take out Pika. So the thing about Zoro is that that's his best feat so far post-time skip. He did cut the dragon's head off in Punk Hazard, and he beat Hyuzo. So like Zoro has feats here or there, but his best feat so far has been DC. That is, I think, fairly clear, because the rest of it is fairly meh. Like his speed, okay, fine. He has armor haki now. His armor haki is good enough to where it could completely just overwhelm the armor haki of Pika. All right, fine. At first, like his DC and his area effect is huge. It's like, oh my god, the entire island. But remember when Zoro fought against Pika on the arm initially? Zoro was beating Pika then. Zoro was outclassing Pika then from a one-on-one fight standpoint when it came to their main bodies. Then Pika runs away. And then the entire thing is Zoro trying to find Pika. From a fight standpoint, Zoro has been lacking when it comes to quality opponents. And then out comes Basil Hawkins. It's like, okay, wait a minute now. But with that being said, I'm trying to simply go over what we've seen so far from post-time skip Zoro from a feat standpoint. Because when you look at what his feats are so far, there's no way, there's absolutely no way that Zoro is on the same level as Luffy, let alone beating Luffy. There's absolutely no way. So then, again, this comes predominantly from a portrayal standpoint. But I would say that your portrayal of Zoro, if you think that Zoro can beat Luffy, is, at the bare minimum, warped. You know, let me actually talk about this for a second. One of the major components here when it comes to this fight between Zoro and Luffy is that, again, Luffy is weak to edge weapons because he is rubber and his natural defense doesn't negate Zoro's cutting ability. Fine, fair enough. But we saw Luffy in Gear 4 Battleman, for example, be able to take the attacks of Don Quixote, Doflamingo, which are cutting based. And we do know that Zoro did not have the ability to cut through the birdcage strings of Don Flamingo. So I ask you then, who has better cutting ability, Zoro or Don Flamingo? Because Zoro used armor hardening on his swords, the same thing he did to cut through Pika's massive stone body, and yeah, he couldn't cut through the birdcage strings. Neither could Fujitora, for that matter. And, you know, maybe if they were going all out, per se, okay, maybe they could. But as far as I know, that he didn't. He could not cut the birdcage strings. And then, on top of that, the strings were able to cut through the meteorites of Fujitora. So, again, Zoro, Pika, impressive, birdcage, not even flinched, and completely sliced meteorites. That is fairly tricky. Who do you think has better cutting ability? Don Flamingo or Zoro? Because then that brings up the question of, okay, well, in Gear 4, let's say if Zoro could, in a fight, if Zoro could bring Luffy to Gear 4, in a fight, Gear 4 will be able to completely negate the attacks of Zoro. And that's assuming that the attacks are going to hit him in the first place. Because Luffy, I would say, is considerably faster than Zoro. Alright, so let me get to, like, the 10 things that, yeah, so now we're getting some stuff here. Because you're wondering, how can you say that? Let me get into some of the facts that we know when it comes to Luffy and Zoro's combat ability post-time skip. So, number one, when it comes to DC, and I know some folks like putting DC on top of everything else. I don't, because in all honesty, when it comes to like a one-on-one fight, like DC can only take you so far, I would say. Because, for example, Whitebeard, tilting oceans, impressive, but took bullet wounds. That being said, DC, air effect and potency. I think Luffy beats Zoro, hands down. Because even though you do have the 1,080-pound cannon, which he did on Pika the first time, and then on top of that, the Greater 3,000 Worlds, which he used to cut Pika in half when he was in full Stone Man form, Stone Mountain form. The fact of the matter is that Luffy, through a barrage attack, was able to destroy more than half of the Noah ship. And I would say that Fishman Island is bigger than Dressrosa. The island itself can house several Sea Kings. We saw it in the past. And those creatures are massive. Like, they're at minimum 5K when it comes to their height. They're huge. And then on top of that, it took several Sea Kings to carry the ship itself. And with a barrage of attacks, Luffy was able to destroy half of that ship. Over half of that ship. That's not including the Grizzly Magnum, which, when it comes to the Grizzly Magnum versus the Greater 3,000 Worlds, there is an argument there. I would honestly think that. The same could go for the Kong Gun. The Leo Bazooka, I would say superior. Definitely the King Kong gun, without question. That blows Zoro's Greater 3,000 Worlds out of the water. So, DC-wise, air effect and potency, I think Luffy just beats Zoro hands down. And that's Zoro's forte. The next thing is physical strength. Physical strength, I am leaning heavily towards Luffy. I can see from a portrayal standpoint that Zoro's physical strength is on the same tier as Luffy's. I can kind of see that. But in all honesty, again, this is where the feats kind of come more into play here. Where it's like, from what we've seen, yeah, Zoro has immense physical strength, true. We can gauge that both pre and post time skip, obviously. But at the same time, at least when it comes from a striking strength standpoint, Luffy, I think, is devastating. But there are certain things that are kind of hard to gauge, like, well, how much force does Zoro need to cut through the Armaki of Pika? You know, like, well, then we have to bring the question, well, how durable is the Armaki of Pika in the first place? So, when you look at, again, Zoro's best feat, it's just stone. It's a massive mountainous stone creature, obviously, but it's still just stone. Whereas Luffy, he Grizzly Magnum, Caesar Clown, through these massive steel doors, and then sent him packing across the entire mountain range. It was like, what? Like, no. So, that's what I'm saying. It's like, yeah, like, it's stone, but we're comparing stone to steel. So definitely these things do matter when it comes to gauging potency of attack. Every Gear 4 attack, with the exception of the base Gear 4 attack, which is the Kong Gun, you could say is superior than the Greater 3,000 Worlds. Lifting-wise, they're probably more on even terms, but strength-wise, overall, I'm leaning towards Luffy, definitely. The next thing, speed. It's a wrap. Luffy outclasses Zoro in speed, without question. And I think, okay, well, look at the latest chapters of Wano Kuni. I mean, blitzing fodder, like, not big, that doesn't matter at all. Blitzing Hold'em, okay, there's an argument there. But the thing here is this. Luffy and Punk Hazard, recall this moment, and it shocked Frankie when he saw it. Luffy pulled a Goku, where Luffy was the center of an explosion, and then Luffy was able to outrun the explosion, like what Goku did to Frieza back in Namek. He outran the explosion clean, in base, as far as you know, in base form. In base form. Nah. Speed-wise, speed-wise, comfortably, I would say that Luffy beats out Zoro in every category, with the exception, and when I say category, I mean subcategory. So speed has several subcategories, with the exception, though, of, let's say, reaction speed. I think that Zoro has very good reaction speed. And he does these kind of burst movements where he kind of like covers a short distance very quickly to do like an attack of some kind. Like, I think the one that comes to mind is Rashomon. That being said, no, Zoro's nowhere near as fast as Luffy. Especially when it comes to like Gear 4. No, Gear 4 can blitz Flamingo. There's no way. So speed-wise, Luffy beats out Zoro, I think, clean. Hands down. Now, the next thing is durability. Durability, Luffy physically has an innate rubber body, but Zoro has not shown anything of note when it comes to post-time skip durability. And pre-time skip, he was solid, but not like Luffy. Nowhere near like Luffy. Mental durability, that doesn't really matter at all, honestly, because as far as you know, and then maybe in the future they will be, but there are no psychic-based users to attack your mind. Now, when it comes to endurance, the next category, because I'm pretty sure a lot of folks are thinking to themselves, well, you know, Zoro took Luffy's pain. Automatic. But Luffy did sacrifice years of his life to endure all the pain that came with Magellan's poison. And through the hormones that Ivankov injected into him, was able to survive that. And he did so in record time. When it comes to Zoro's situation, after taking Luffy's pain, he was not in full form at all for several arcs. You can say, actually, that him taking Luffy's damage affected him for the rest of pre-time skip. And granted, Ivankov was there for Luffy to inject him with hormones and so on and so forth, but when you take a look at what he had to go through when he was in Impel Down and after Impel Down with Marineford War, I think mentally speaking and physically speaking as well, I think that when it comes to endurance, I would definitely lean towards Luffy. And then when you look at post-time skip, we can't get Zoro properly because what do we have with Zoro? He's fighting very meh opponents. Like his strongest opponent he fought was clearly Fujitora, but Fujitora schooled him. So endurance, this is more, I think, of a closer match between Luffy and Zoro, but I would definitely lean towards Luffy, especially when you consider what he went through with Katakuri. So yeah, I would say I'm leaning heavily towards Luffy when it comes to endurance. Definitely. Next category, range. They're kind of equal in range, honestly. Because even though Zoro has, you know, long range attacks, they can only go so far. Like, for example, when it came to Pika, he couldn't attack Pika from where he was because the range was too far. Oh, so Olumus had to throw him over there for him to actually do any damage to Pika. Whereas Luffy, we see him in the past, like for example with Walpole, he stretched like he stretched so far. I was like, bro. In fact, when this happens One Piece, when it came to Urashima, he just stretched. So the guy does have a lot of range, clearly, when it comes to attack. So I would say that Luffy and Zoro, when it comes to their range, they're kind of equal there. Now, the next thing is intelligence. Zoro clearly wins that. Luffy's not smart. Even when it comes to combat sense and combat wit, I think Zoro wins in that category too, honestly. The next thing here is stamina. Luffy, I think it's cut and dry, honestly. I know you'd say, well, Zoro, but there's nothing to base it on. There's nothing. When it comes to Luffy, Luffy fought for several hours against someone like Charlotte Charles Barkley Katakuri. Shirts in the box below. Whereas Zoro, stamina-wise, when I think about it, he fought someone that was of the same caliber of swordsman as he was back pre-time skip. That was Ryuma. And Brooks said, because they're the same type of swordsmen, this fight won't last long. And it didn't. And after the fight was done, Zoro was on the ground, huffing and wheezing. So, yeah, stamina, I can, maybe you can, from a portrayal standpoint, again, if you see Zoro that high, you can kind of fabricate something where Zoro has, like, you know, stamina to where he can go for like 15, 20 hours. And in One Piece, these fights are going to last that long. Fair enough. But right now, nothing really gauge it on, truly. So stamina, definitely Luffy, without question. Experience, this doesn't really matter, honestly, in this case, because experience and intelligence, they kind of fit in the same category under adaptability. So how well can a character adapt in a fight to their opponent's techniques and their abilities? And intelligence and experience and instinct, these things do matter. So with Zoro and Luffy, same, doesn't really matter there. Now when it comes to abilities, finally, the main thing that Zoro has over Luffy when it comes to abilities is just cutting stuff, and that's really it. Because when you look at the bare bone stuff, Cambodian Haki, who's superior? Luffy. Armor Haki. Who's superior? Luffy. That's Zoro's MO. But Luffy is even better in Armor Haki. So in base form, they're probably equal in Armor Haki. In Gear 4, no. No. And on top of that, he has Conqueror's Haki. So ability-wise, Luffy has more going for him, and he has a Delphi power. Now, Zoro can swim where Luffy can't, fair enough, but the Delphi power makes up of that in spades, clearly, and that depends more so on your environment when it comes to water. So if they're fighting in a water area, then that matters, but if not, then it doesn't matter at all. On top of that, Luffy has flight. He can fly in Bound Man. And in base form, he can kind of hover with UFO. From an elemental standpoint, I would say that they're more even, because Zoro does have, like, one fire-based attack. Like, only one, though. And he does have a wind-based tornado attack. But Luffy has the Red Hawk, which he can use even underwater. And when it comes to transform states, too, Luffy has several. Whereas Zoro, he does have Ashura. Fair. But what else? Well, that's it. So, ultimately speaking, when you look at these bare-bone components of fighting, Luffy just beats Zoro. Luffy just beats out Zoro. And from a portrayal standpoint, you can kind of say, okay, well, maybe based on, like, this thing loosely, Zoro's better than Luffy. But honestly, not really. Again, the main thing here just comes down to cutting ability. And truth be told, I don't see Zoro tagging Luffy that often in a fight. I really, really don't. Especially if he starts going to Gear 2 and Bound Man. And so, to wrap this video up, here's what I do think is going to happen. A lot of folks are going to upscale Zoro. Well, if this applied pre-time skip, why wouldn't it apply post-time skip? Well, the problem ultimately is that Luffy, when you think about Luffy and how powerful he is now, and look what he's showcased now, you can kind of tell that Oda is aiming for Luffy to be up there with the Yonko when it comes to notoriety. If that's the case, then odds are he'll be up there eventually when it comes to power as well. I mean, right now his bounty is 1.5 billion. He's blowing everybody out of the water in his crew when it comes to bounty. And of course, bounty is not like the end all be all when it comes to portrayal, obviously. Otherwise, Pedro and Tamago are stronger fighters than Zoro because they have a higher bounty than Zoro. But the thing about it, and honestly, I'm not sure how many folks would bet on Pedro or Tamago against Zoro in a one-on-one fight. If you do, then you're rare. You're very rare. Like Shining Charizard rare. But that being said, portrayal-wise, Luffy will be vastly stronger than the rest of his crew, I think, ultimately speaking, at the end of the series. Because when you think about it, Wiper compared to Marco, Ace, Diamond Jozu, Big Mom compared to Katakuri, Smoothie, Daifuku, Oven, the Yonko blow their crew out of the water when it comes to their combat skills. That's the way it appears so far. So I don't see why it wouldn't be the same thing here when it comes to Luffy and his crew as well. When you look at the growth over the time skip, Zoro, as far as we know, all he learned from Mihawk was Armored Haki. That was really it. Like, he didn't learn any Ogis, any techniques like that. Folks want to say, oh, the Demon Eye thing. Maybe, who knows? But again, we saw the demons previously, so they're not going to be necessarily new, but they could be enhanced, which is going to be, okay, that'd be a cool thing. Whereas Luffy, I mean, after time skip, my God, 6 months under direct training from Rayleigh. Not like Mihawk, who like, yeah, Armor Haki, no. Like everything. Kambosho Haki, Armor Haki, Congress Haki. And then you can argue that the quality of opponent that Luffy faced against, compared to Zoro, during the time skip, there were literally creatures, I think it was like 500 creatures on the island that Rayleigh said that Luffy could not beat the way he was. And he needed Gear 4 to beat some of these creatures. Whereas with Zoro, he fought chimps. I mean, obviously, you know, okay, fine. Human mandrill baboons, so they acquired human techniques, that kind of stuff. Okay, fine, but that was all as far as you know. The quality of training Luffy went through, I'm pretty sure, is superior than Zoro. And again, you look at what's been happening now. I think, in all honesty, Luffy is bounds ahead of the rest of the crew, combat-wise. Again, unless you see Zoro, like, really, really high. And when I mean, like, high, I mean, like, you think that Zoro could damn near beat Katakuri, too. That's what I mean. Or beat Don Flamingo. Like, one-on-one. When it comes to Kuro and Luffy, even that. Yeah. And I will say that for another video, definitely. But unless you rate Zoro that high, based on what I would say is very little evidence, then I really don't see Zoro beating Luffy. I really don't. And in fact, I don't see Zoro being on the same level as Luffy. But hey, we'll see. I could be wrong. Who knows? So that being said, I am done. Be sure to rate the video. It is not that hard to do, especially when I know that you all have a device called Zamaosu. You use Zamaosu to click, rate the video, to click, subscribe, to click on that bell to join the squad. And of course, comment in the comment section down below. Peace. And have a nice goddamn day.